So sorry. Hi. Hi, Brian. Thank you so much, everyone. As you mentioned, my name is Ailene Bonczkowski. I'm really excited to share my project with you all this evening. Here's a little outline of what I'd like to cover with you tonight, and I'm just going to jump right in. So I was born and raised here in Louisville, but did spend a lot of my young adult life traveling and working across the United States and abroad, primarily in the food service and hospitality industry. Although I'm still somewhat of an adventurer, I have planted roots here in Kentucky to raise my family. So for now, I'm actively seeking both hybrid and remote roles based in Louisville. In addition to completing the CodeYou pathway in data analytics, I'm also a full-time student at Indiana University Southeast. I'm majoring in data science, minoring in math, and set to receive my Bachelor of Science degree next year. I chose to participate in CodeYou and to transition into the tech industry because I really just craved more of a challenge, both intellectually and creatively, in my day-to-day work life. And I found that the most fulfilling thing for me is to learn as much as possible about something in order to answer a question or solve a problem. And then, even more importantly, take those answers and those solutions and convey them to others in an easy to comprehend way, which is definitely what I strove to do in this capstone project. So I chose the world of sports analytics for its abundance of easy to access, clean, usable data. And hockey was a natural choice because it is a sport that I play and love to watch. And although having all that data was great, it also provided the biggest challenge that I faced in the completion of this capstone, which was actually just figuring out what questions I needed to ask. Finding the questions that were not too broad in scope and that were manageable given the project and time constraints that I had. For example, the way that I started the process was with the question, what's the influence of the bottom 6 players on a hockey team's success? And the question that I used for this project was, what was the impact of the HBK line, which is a set of 3 third line players, on the Pittsburgh Penguins Stanley Cup success in the years 2016 and 2017, which is a very specific question. But even given such a narrow question, it provided ample opportunities for analysis, exploration, and visualization. And for me, visualizations were a key component of this project. I did use the Seaborn and Matplotlib libraries to generate them right in my Jupyter notebooks. For the data, I used multiple sources from Kaggle and hockeyreference.com. I constructed a local database using SQLite 3 and really leaned on the Python pandas library for all of my data manipulation and analysis. You'll see an example of code. That's the code that I used to construct the database for the project. And I chose to use SQL because I really just fell in love with it. CodeYou is my introduction to structured query language, and I'm really fond of how simple and streamlined it is. And I felt that if I utilized it in my capstone, it would give me that much more of an opportunity to learn more about it and become more practiced in it. So throughout the notebook, in order to construct the data frames that I used SQL queries in order to grab information that I needed across a variety of different tables. I'd also like to share just a few code examples. I don't have a lot of time to go into them, but I will say the biggest part of my process was kind of sorting, organizing, and aggregating the data that I had. For example, I needed to take the game plays and group them into games, into rounds for the teams, and then as you'll see on the screen now, even into good plays and bad plays, what would be considered positive or negative, and making sure that it's being used with the right players. I had to do all of that before I could even begin my visualizations. But these visuals were very important to me. Crafting and compelling visualizations, I felt was what I was most passionate about in this project. Maybe because as a newcomer to the world of sports analytics, I felt firsthand how intimidating it can be if you haven't heard of these metrics before, maybe don't know anything about them. So I wanted to learn and understand them and then distill that knowledge that I had gained into images that were easily accessible to anyone, regardless of your prior knowledge of sports or hockey. So with my remaining time, I just want to give some examples of the visuals that I did create. This first one was a lot of fun. I utilized the access to XY coordinates for every single play that's given. And because there were so many, I did choose to focus on the primary players that I was looking at. I grouped into good and bad plays. And by the playoff years, here's a couple examples, although there are many more if you check out my notebook. And then, as you'll see, I used statistics to find other ways of looking at player metrics, like calculating face-off differentials, calculating penalty differentials. And I tried to really keep my graphs simple and streamlined while also giving tangible, concrete information in the legends, so they get sort of the best of both worlds. As you'll see, I looked at correlations between different advanced metrics, and then most of this is just player comparison with one another and the team as a whole, which is this last one that you'll see here, taking a look at something such as percent of goals scored versus goals scored for the whole team. So that about wraps it up here. I really encourage you to check out the full project on my GitHub. It is quite extensive. And if you're into hockey or not, there is a data dictionary for you if you want to learn a little bit more. So thank you so much again for listening to this presentation and for coming to Demo Day and supporting CodeYou. It's been such a great program for me. I look forward to seeing some of you in my breakout rooms, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions concerning my project or myself. Thank you.